Okay, here we are at the end of the 2016 NFL regular season, and we're going to take this podcast to do some recapping, and we're going to get into the 2016 regular season awards. We want to get into some true or false questions going into next season, and we also want to preview the AFC and NFC wildcard matchups this weekend.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and kick it off. 2016 regular season awards. Let's go over some of the favorites for comeback player of the year. You have anybody you want to nominate?
Well, we have a list here. We got quite a few, but I feel like it's going to be Jordy Nelson. I think that, him coming back from the ACL injury, I think in the preseason he suffered it.
Yeah.
And he didn't start off well, but you notice that as he got healthier, he got more in sync with Rodgers again, because it's a year off and he's older. It'll take a while, especially for a wide receiver. But you could chart that the more he got comfortable cutting and running the routes and kind of getting back in sync with Aaron Rodgers, the more Aaron Rodgers trusted him, the more he released the ball.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence that Aaron Rodgers got better and that team got better because Jordy
got better.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they all improved as a team. I think he was a big reason for the 6-game winning streak at the end of the season. He finishes the year with 97 receptions, 1,257 yards, and he leads all wide receivers in the league with 14 touchdowns. So that's quite a comeback from an ACL tear.
Do you have a dark horse you want to throw out there?
I do. The one that I was looking at, when I was looking at all these candidates, I was looking for a low pro dark horse, and I found one, and I have to nominate Cameron Wake, defensive end for the Dolphins. He's coming off a torn Achilles last year in the middle of the season, so he had less time to recuperate, and in my opinion, it's more of a devastating injury. You look at what the Achilles tear has done to athletes like Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
This guy's in his 30s.
Yeah.
And he comes back this year with 29 combined tackles, 5 forced fumbles, and 11.5 sacks. And
that's amazing.
Again, the Miami Dolphins, they completely were another dark horse team and made the playoffs in the AFC. So that's somebody who I think definitely deserves consideration, along with somebody like DeMarco Murray, the running back for the Titans. He played for the mess that was Chip Kelly and the Eagles last year. And, he finishes with 293 rushing yards, 4.4 yard average, and 293 rushes, and he ends up with 1,287 yards and 9 TDs.
But, that's pretty good because he's splitting time.
Yeah, and he's splitting time with Derrick Henry.
Yep.
So, the thing is, it's kind of the opposite of Jordy Nelson. He kind of fell apart down the stretch. He really didn't have the big numbers on the second half of the season.
Yeah, and then I think they like to tend to give it to somebody that's maybe coming off an injury.
Yeah, because his comeback was more
performance-based.
just not being used right, being out of the system.
Yeah. I think that those are 3 great candidates. Let's go to your defensive rookie of the year. Now, can you give me, I know everyone's going to scream Joey Bosa. Can you give me a couple of different players other than him that have a shot or should be recognized for the award?
I also like Eli Apple, cornerback for the Giants. He played in 14 games this season. He had 51 combined tackles. He also had a forced fumble, 1 interception, and, even though it's not maybe necessarily the most impressive stat line, but he replaced Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie in the starting lineup for arguably the best defense going into the NFC playoffs.
Yeah, you watch him and you see he's around the ball, he's making plays, and he's a good young cornerback. I think they hit on him. There was a lot of mixed reviews because he's a little bit bigger, he's not as fast. Everyone wanted, Peterson, that kind of cornerback coming out. I think he deserves some credit, but I think this is the one award that I think gets, along with Offensive Rookie of the Year, is the hands down is going to, we know, and that's going to be Joey Bosa. I mean, even though he missed those games, man, you put him in that lineup and you just see the difference that whole defense makes.
Yeah, there's a big difference. He actually had 41 combined tackles, also had a forced fumble like Eli Apple, and he finished the season with 10.5 sacks in just 12 games. So if you want to project and say, hey, give him 4 more games and add 2.5 sacks, he'd have about 13 sacks on the season. That's
defense,
top-notch pass rushing.
You're reaching in like the defensive MVP level, and I think that even just watching him, you see him the way he can move around, especially playing that kind of DN in a 3-4. You don't always get those kind of numbers, but he has a little bit of J.J. Watt where he's strong yet he's quick. Maybe not always be fast, but he can get his hands up and get his hands around you. You see what he can do on the field. You see him disrupting lines, penetrating, pushing guards, tackles out of the way to help the run game.
Yeah, definitely. And he also plays the run well. He's a high motor player. He definitely deserves, in my opinion, he probably runs away with it. Somebody else that also, deserves to be mentioned in the conversation is the 5th overall pick in the draft, Jalen Ramsey. He played in all 16 games. Neither of these two players that we've previously mentioned have. Bosa played 12. Eli played 14. But he's played all 16 games. I think there's something to be said for that. He finishes with 65 combined tackles, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions, and 1 he returned for a touchdown.
Oh, nice. They got something there, yeah.
It definitely, they have a good player. It's just he's probably in the unfortunate situation of being a Jacksonville Jaguar. So let's go ahead and you want to hit Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Yeah.
I want to hit it.
You can look at a guy like Tyreek Hill, wide receiver out of Kansas City. That dude with the ball in his hands, he's amazing. You can give it on a sweep, great routes, return the ball. He's dynamic. He's a playmaker, but we want to give him some credit because he's part of the reason why Kansas City's
they're the number 2 seed in the AFC. And to me, it's like, what doesn't this guy do? He has 12 total touchdowns on the season. 3 touchdowns rushing, 6 receiving, 2 by punt returns, and 1 on a kickoff return. And to me, look, we all know that this is a 2-horse race, this Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's Dak or it's Zeke. But I feel the need to have to talk about this guy because what he's doing this season was special.
It warrants some consideration.
It definitely does, because here's the difference between, and me being a Cowboys fan, I'm still saying that I give him the edge in this one simple way. There's no way to stop Tyreek Hill because he impacts special teams. You can't stop unless you're going to kick out of bounds on every punt.
Yeah.
He's going to affect the game. There's no way to completely take the ball out of this guy's hands, and he's going to impact playoff games.
Yeah, in any other year, this guy would be Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
But, you just run into a special situation that's happening down in Dallas with Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott. And I'm going to go to my resident Cowboy fan here and say, of the 2 rookies, who is the Rookie of the Year?
Look, let me lay it down for you. Here's the comparison. You have Dak Prescott. He threw for 3,667 yards, 23 touchdowns through the air, compared to 4 interceptions. So he took care of the ball. He has a 68% completion percentage, and you can add on top of that 6 rushing touchdowns. So he's very dangerous in the red zone. Mm-hmm. Now you have Zeke. He only played in 15 games. He didn't play the last game. Coach's choice. 1,631 yards on the season, 15 touchdowns with a 5.1 yards per carry, sorry. So, again, take your pick. But to me, I'm interested in what you think. After hearing those numbers, who would you throw more in favor of? Who would you go more in favor? If you had a vote, who are you voting for?
Oh, man, that's so hard. I feel like there is a kind of a thought out there by a lot of NFL aficionados, maybe a lot of people who vote, that Dak is more of a game manager. I think the numbers, if you he's more than that. But that notion, I think, is what's going to allow Ezekiel Elliott to squeak by, because Ezekiel Elliott was challenging, rookie rushing records, was challenging single season records. You just look at him, he just looks like a different person behind that line than like Darren McFadden, other guys. He's all world. Dak is the quarterback, and that kind of garners a lot of, in default, when it's a tie, we give it to the quarterback. But, man, you watch those games, who am I afraid of? I guess I would say, if I'm a defensive coordinator, who am I more afraid of? Who do you need to stop?
Yeah. Who does your game plan?
It's stopping Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
It's got to be, because if I don't, and it's part of Dallas's offense, they're going to just give it to him I'm not going to trick Dallas into not running the ball. They're going to run it. So he is somebody I have to take care of. And his own abilities, he starts, stop, he can cut. I think they went for it on 4th down in a game where he looked like he was stopped. He bounced it outside. He accelerated, boom, got the first down. He can catch it. He can pass block. He's a home run hitter. And I think that's what they're going to look at, and they're going to give it to him. And similar to harken back to the days of the triplets, when Aikman was winning, but who was getting the awards? Who was the one that was garnering the attention?
Emmitt Smith. But again, Dak Prescott kind of takes the role of Troy Aikman, where who's the leader in the huddle? Who's the leader of the team? Who's the one that has the poise that's going to take them through those deep playoff runs? And I agree with 100% with everything you just said. And I agree. To me, Ezekiel Elliott on the field makes the biggest difference. And like you said, Dak makes the biggest difference in the locker room or in that huddle. But as far as Offensive Rookie of the Year goes, we know how these voters, we know how they think sometimes. We talked about it, before we even, got on here and got on our mics. And we talked about they're not going to want to vote for rookies for MVP because both of these guys are MVP candidates.
Yeah.
But what are the chances of that?
Yeah.
So I feel like they're going to throw a bone here. And I think because of that, I'm going to predict Dak Prescott takes this award.
Wow.
Only because I know he's not going to win the MVP. So I think they're going to throw him the bone because I think they might try to slip Zeke into maybe Offensive Player of the Year.
Trying to fit everybody.
That way Dak and Zeke both get an award because I don't think Dak has a chance at Offensive Player of the Year. I
think that's a good point. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah, you raise a good point. I think if they wanted to split it and make sure everybody... they showed value to everybody that's the route you go.
Everybody's getting recognized.
Exactly with the awards.
So what do we got next?
We got Coach of the Year. And, man, there was some good coaches. Some guys that normally don't make the list made the list this year as far as we're concerned. And I'll start off, and I think that I'm going to lean towards Jack Del Rio. In all year, this guy has shown belief in his team. And to me, when you believe in your team as a coach, the first game to go for the win – with your what?
Yeah, that New Orleans game.
That game.
I gotta cut you off, and because I'm gonna argue your argument for you. In week 1, I remember falling in love with him as a coach because I thought, wow, you know what? He's gonna go for the win. Screw the tie. I'm going for the win. I don't want to play in overtime. I don't want to. I want to win this game. And just the fact that he had the balls to do that when. Nobody knew that the Raiders were going to,
be what they are,
be what they came to be. And I think that decision was part of the reason why they came to be the 12-4 team.
And I think what you also look at is and even the play itself. That's a gutsy 2-point conversion. He just threw an out fade. Yeah. But he said, you're my quarterback. You're the best player on this team. You're going to win it for us. You're going to make the play to Crabtree.
Right.
But I look at him all season long, and I look at what the Raiders were. Now, Reggie McKenzie did come in. He cleaned up a lot of the mess that it was. But it was Jack Del Rio that's kind of been the steady force that has guided this team, that has instilled the confidence in Derek Carr, that has put the belief in him. You're going to lead us. And I think that helps a young quarterback. He's made the plays. They went in there. They've beaten Denver.
Yeah.
They beat San Diego.
Yeah.
They've beaten a lot of teams. What were they?
12 wins.
Yeah.
They made a 5-game improvement.
Yeah, which is amazing.
They went from 7-9 to 12-4.
And I think he's put them in position. I think that's why, because when you come in here, you thought, okay, Oakland may be a team that might threaten. They're a good young team. But for them to do what they've done against good teams, going into Tampa, who had a winning record, like I said, the wins against Denver, they've proven time and time again, and it's because I think of Jack Del Rio instilling not just the confidence, but that winning belief. We're going to go out there and win.
Right.
And I think that's why he gets Coach of the Year.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. And I was his biggest cheerleader. Not to take a shot at Tomlin, but I was his biggest cheerleader, talking about him for Coach of the Year. But then you got to look at a couple of other guys. You got to look at Adam Gase from the Dolphins. He had he took over a team that was 6-10. So he comes in with a 4-game improvement, 10-6, makes the playoffs. But here's something that not enough of the mainstream media is talking about in sports, and that's that he made Ryan Tannehill look like a legitimate quarterback. There's something to say for that. Derek Carr, no one ever questioned his talent.
No.
You know, we all knew he was a player that was on the up.
He is ascending.
Yeah, and he took over a team that was descending, but more importantly, a descending quarterback. He looked like a first-round bust.
Yeah.
And he makes this guy a playoff caliber quarterback. So to me, he deserves consideration. But if I had a vote, I have to go with Jason Garrett. And again, he kind of stole this award from Del Rio because I was on the Del Rio train probably from week 1 to, I'm going to venture to say week 14, maybe week 13, week 14. Then it started to change. And the reason is this. We talked about the 4-game improvement from Gase, the 5-game improvement for Jack Del Rio. But Jason Garrett hit a 9-game improvement from last year. I mean, that's almost double what Del Rio did, and that's more than double what Gase did. He's 13-3 from 4-12. And bottom line is, if we look at the preseason standings or the preseason predictions, he won this division in those 13 games with his third-string quarterback. And look, we all know Dak is more talented than a third-string quarterback.
Yes.
I'm not trying to fool anybody here. My point being is this. He's still a rookie, and he was still a 4th-round pick. And just to be able to bring this guy along for the ride, whether they're talented, and we all know Dallas Cowboys are talented, but not only was he able to bring this quarterback along for the ride, he got this quarterback in a position to lead this team.
Yeah. I'm going to still go Jack Del Rio. I think one point I'll make on behalf of Jason Garrett is the pressure that he has to manage that team. That's a lot to manage. Because, I mean, that could have turned into when Romo went down, that could have been a dumpster fire quick.
He could have lost his job this year.
Yeah. I mean, you have to deal with Jerry Jones. I mean, Jerry Jones is saying crazy stuff, and he has to sit there and say, yeah. He can't blatantly call him a liar, say he's full of it. He has to navigate that mess.
He has to be the ringmaster in the circus that is the Dallas Cowboys.
And his people don't like his demeanor, but I think that's kind of what's kept him there, and I think that's what's kept this team afloat. You know, I agree. I mean, I think Dallas is a little better than.
When you say that, though, do you realize that by you saying that, can you really honestly say Del Rio's done a better coaching job this year than Jason Garrett, knowing what he's had to do? The press conference with Tony Romo, Jerry Jones getting to the Dallas media and saying, oh, well, I hope Romo plays in the playoffs, or I hope we can get him some time. And, you know, the third-string quarterback, you know what I mean? The rookies, the 2 rookies in the nightclub.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, he's done a masterful job he's done a masterful job, you know, not just, you know, inside the huddle, inside the locker room, but dealing with all these distractions. And I give you that. But I feel like Jack Del Rio, when you put him on the board and you put him on the field, I mean, you see things like he inspires that team. That team was a dumpster fire. Right. As great as Carr could be, that team was a joke for more than a decade, for almost going on 15 years.
Definitely.
You know, and he's kind of stabilized that. I mean, they became a power running game. They had a power running game. That's how they beat Denver.
Yeah.
They ran the ball.
Ran the ball on them.
You know, he's improved. That defense is coming around slowly. You know, it gives up here and there.
Yeah, it has its talent.
You know, I want to speak more on Adam Gase, kind of like the dark horse no one really talks about. And I think that, you know, like you talked about a guy like Ryan Tannehill, you know, picking him up off the ground, making him a great quarterback. And then you look at a guy like Jay Ajayi, who's his workhorse, who's his stud back. You got to remember, they drafted him, I believe, last year, and he didn't even start this year. Also, I think in the preseason, they asked him, hey, we need you to play, you know, 4th preseason, 3rd preseason game, and he lagged it, and they put him in the doghouse. Yeah. You know, most times when that happens to a running back, they're done. Mentally, they've checked out. You know, and he got him to perform. You know, I think one thing we have to give them credit for is they won enough games in a division where they have to play Tom Brady twice and New England twice. You know, they beat the team that they're going to play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that if we were just to say in a vacuum, I mean, man, I might want to give it to Gase because he doesn't have the quarterback. He has a pretty good running offensive line.
Yeah.
He doesn't have certain things, but I think that when you include either the confidence in the things that Del Rio's brought to the Raiders and what the mess that Jason Garrett has to deal with you know, Jerry Jones, that elevates those two. I think I'd still give it to Del Rio, but if Jason Garrett won it, I wouldn't throw up my hands and say that it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't see how you can. And just closing on this one, I think we've kind of went too long on it already, but But just closing on this argument, you got to think about this. Jason Garrett, he finished with the division crown. These other two coaches didn't.
That's a good point.
That's your number one goal going into any season. That's always step one.
Yeah.
And he won the division crown. Not only that, he won the NFC's number one seed. He's got a first round bye. Those other two teams, they didn't finish with that. Sorry to say this, but here's I was going to go Del Rio. I kid you not, I was still going to go Del Rio. And this was the deciding factor. This was the tipping point. And that was this. When Derek Carr went down, what happened to them?
They fell apart.
Exactly. If they would have won the last game, I would have gave it to Del Rio. But two quarterbacks went down for Garrett, and he went 13-3. I don't think that happens in Oakland.
I'll give you that.
And that's why I gave it to him. But moving on, we have Defensive Player of the Year. Let's get into that. I got 3 guys for you. I'll go over their stats. You kind of share your thoughts on them and who you would give your vote to. And, the prohibitive favorite is Von Miller, linebacker for the Broncos. Comes in, finishes the season with 78 combined tackles, 13.5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. Another guy, his younger brother, as he likes to refer to him as, 39 combined tackles, 15.5 sacks, and 6 forced fumbles. And I'm talking about Vic Beasley, the defensive end from the Falcons. And last one, I think it's between those two, but I'll give him an honorable mention here. And I think Landon Collins, safety from the Giants, although he gives up a lot of big plays, he makes a lot of big plays on defense as well. 125 combined tackles. So
wow,
he's around the
that's
ball.
A beast right there.
He has 4 sacks, and 5 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown. So he's put points up this season. So you have to mention him. But if you had a vote, who are you going with?
It's such an interesting year because we just kind of named this the J.J. Watt Award because it felt like he won it like every year. And now that he was gone, it was like one week it was Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
Next week it was Vaughn. You could make a case for player A. You could make a case for Bosa. But I think that Von Miller, both he has the stats and the play that kind of just puts him above everybody else. I will give a lot of credit to Vic Beasley because I feel like that the knock on the Falcons was always their defense. And specifically pass rush. Can you get to the quarterback? And his improvement has marked an improvement on their defense. It's no accident. He got better. They all got better.
They got better.
But I think that Von Miller is just, he's all the world. When you watch him just destroy right tackles, and his ability to get around the corner, he has the bend and the speed. He almost goes to the ground when he turns that corner, and yet he keeps his balance, pops right back up, and gets a sack, strip sacks. He doesn't drop into coverage as much. I've seen him do it a little bit. That's not where you want him. But as far as one player I would want to have, or I feel like, man, if I have him, my whole defense gets better, is Von Miller.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I think it's close because I think Vic Beasley has a little bit better numbers as far as the sacks go and the forced fumbles because fumbles are giving your team, chance at an
turning
extra
over the
position.
ball.
Yeah, and that's what you're supposed to do. And the only thing I can say is this: Vic Beasley's team is in the playoffs right now.
That's true.
Von Miller's at home, but you know what? Overall, if I had a pick, I'd
and I think defensive player is one of those awards where I don't think, we look at offensive MVP, we look at certain awards and like, well, you better be in the playoffs, so you better have an X record. But defensive player of the year, because you're on the side, you're not only do you not see the ball, you're on the side that doesn't even have the ball. So I think that does count. What do you do? That's what made J.J. Watt great. He stopped plays. He could get sacks. He could spot them down. He did everything, and I think that's why when you look at what's the next line, if I said, oh, this is the way you play a defense, well, okay, who's the next guy? And that's Von Miller.
Yeah, I definitely can't argue with that one. So looking at the other side of the ball, offensive player of the year, I'll name over a couple of candidates here. I think a couple of guys we talked about before, Ezekiel Elliott, we can mention him. Aaron Rodgers, we can mention him. But a new guy on this list, I think a possibility is David Johnson, running back for the Cardinals. He finishes with 1,239 yards rushing, and that's good for a 4.2 average, 16 rushing touchdowns. But on top of that, 80 receptions.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and 879 yards with 4 touchdowns. So this guy was the Arizona offense.
Yeah.
And I think he needs to at least be nominated. And, I don't know what your thoughts are on him. He's in your favorite team's division, so.
You game plan around him.
Yeah.
And it's a little different, I think, than Ezekiel Elliott in one sense, is that with Ezekiel, you'll know. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott will catch passes maybe through screens. Maybe he'll go out run some pass patterns. But David Johnson, you don't know. You don't even know how to set up your defense around him, because you could sit there and say, we're going to put a linebacker. Guess what? They flexed him out. Now you have a linebacker on him. Good luck with that. What hurt him is that his quarterback took a step back in Carson Palmer. But man, that guy, you're afraid to see him in space, because you feel like he's going to make somebody look silly. He's going to take the ball to the house. He didn't have the great offensive line that Ezekiel Elliott had. I think he's maybe a better route runner than Ezekiel Elliott is. Yeah. Maybe has better hands because he's a lot of. I think he's a mini wide receiver, and especially how they used him when they wanted to flex him out to get an advantage. And let's say you said, no, we're going to put a cornerback on him. He had the ability to run the ball, and he didn't just run it to the outside. Ran it inside the tackles, was dangerous, could get through tackles. But as much as I think he's a monster and love him, I don't think you can argue who deserves Offensive Player of the Year, and that's Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only person that could take the award from Ezekiel Elliott is Aaron Rodgers if, and this is a big if he doesn't win MVP.
Yeah.
Because Aaron Rodgers put up the numbers. 4,428 yards on the season passing, 40 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 66% completion percentage. So those are big-time numbers. So if he doesn't win MVP, I think he could take it from Zeke. But if all things go to plan, I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to win Offensive Player of the Year.
I agree with you on that one.
So MVP, who do you like?
I know this isn't a popular choice, and people are going to whine and cry and piss and moan, but the truth is the truth, and the truth is Tom Brady. I mean, when you look at this guy played, I know everyone likes to say, wow, he only played, he didn't play a quarter of the season, and that should not come. His numbers are comparable with every other quarterback in the league. Imagine if he'd have played those 4 games. Let me give you his numbers. He had 28 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's amazing. He threw 2 picks in 12 games. 3,500 yards, 67% completion percentage. If let's say he played, let's give him Garoppolo's numbers for those games. He finishes with over 4,000 yards, around 35 touchdowns. Let's give him a pick. 35 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, over 4,000 yards passing. I mean, he's the league's MVP. You see him, he plays quarterback in the pocket at a different level than everybody else. It's like I sit there and I watch him. Flexes out, Deion Lewis. Oh, he's going to throw a swing pass, and he does it, and it's simple. He doesn't have this great athletic ability. He doesn't have this cannon arm. He's cerebral. He's got great footwork. The New England Patriots are a dynasty because of him, and in this season, he's performed no less. He is the Jordan factor, where you could just give it to him every year. You can give it to, I'm talking about regular season, the award. Let me clarify.
Okay. All right.
Where you could sit there and say, he puts up the numbers and his team has the wins to garner him winning that award every year.
He's always a candidate, and you can argue for him at any year. Of course, I can't argue with that, but I can tell you this. He missed 4 games. Like you said, okay, fine, throw him out. But did New England not go 3-1 without him?
Yes.
So it shows me, maybe it doesn't show you, it shows me that Jimmy Garoppolo and Bill Belichick and the rest of that Patriot offense could get the job done. And the Patriots defense finished number 1 in points. So maybe Tom Brady isn't, look, he's valuable, very valuable, but maybe he's not the most valuable player in the NFL.
I look at it like this. They got to play an Arizona team that was overrated.
Yeah.
I think. I also think that you played a Texans team that Bill Belichick has a number. I mean, they beat the Texans with Jacoby Brissett, and I don't think that guy threw a touchdown.
No.
And so I know that accumulates his wins, but I think that his value in a game is more, because if we don't get to see Jacoby Brissett or Jimmy Garoppolo play 16 games.
Right. No, you don't.
Garoppolo played, honestly, 3.5 or 2.5 before he got hurt. You know?
Yeah, right.
Brissett came in. They had a week to game plan. Excuse me. They were actually on a short week against the Texans,
right,
which allowed them, you know. But when Tom Brady came in, look at the games that I think Buffalo was their one loss.
Yes.
Buffalo beat them.
Blew them out.
Yeah. And you look what he did to Buffalo when he came back. And that's the things that, yes, they're good. But as far as valuable, as far as this guy's going to get them to the Super Bowl, it's Tom Brady.
Right. He's irreplaceable to New England, right? Okay, well, taking that logic, is Derek Carr not irreplaceable to the Raiders?
That last game certainly made it seem
right.
like that
and
was the
so
case.
That's the way I look at it. I'll ask you a question here. Let's just say somehow, some way the Raiders get by. Okay, let's say they don't. Take Houston or the Raiders, okay? And then take Tom Brady. Say Tom Brady's going to get an extra week off. So whoever plays them, the Texans or the Raiders, and then they go up to New England and face Jimmy Garoppolo and the New England Patriots, who do you have in that game?
I'll probably still have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's my point, that it's more the juggernaut, the system that is Bill Belichick and the Patriots more so than Tom Brady. But you take Derek Carr off that team, and Jack Del Rio isn't the juggernaut, team, the dynasty that's going to roll past people in the playoffs. I could argue that the New England Patriots would make the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo.
You could make that argument, but
he'd be probably the best quarterback not named Ben Roethlisberger in the AFC. Yeah, think about that one. I'm making a good argument. Tom Brady's valuable, but maybe just not so irreplaceable as we think.
I can see that argument. I just look at it like there's Oakland, like Derek Carr and Oakland's ceiling is the AFC Championship game. Even if he was healthy, that's his ceiling. And his ceiling is losing to Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the reason why they can go ahead and beat Pittsburgh. Because I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo beats Pittsburgh. It's a different thing. Because then you're asking to match touchdown for touchdown. I don't think a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo can match touchdown for touchdown with Big Ben. I think Tom Brady can. I look at a team like when it's the Super Bowl and maybe you're playing Dallas, you're playing the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Who do I trust? Who's the valuable player? Is Tom Brady.
Of course.
I mean, should be told they haven't missed a beat offensively without Gronkowski, and that was the big worry. Oh, no Gronk, no chance. He still puts up fantastic numbers. He finds Martellus Bennett, and we all know Martellus Bennett isn't the world's greatest tight end or even most reliable tight end. He's good, but he still finds a way to get Deion Lewis, James White, Chris Hogan, what he did to Baltimore's number one ranked defense. When it counted, they were coming back, and what do you say? Nope, bomb over the top.
Well, he's Tom Brady. He's probably the greatest quarterback of all time. It's time to give him that. I mean, it's hard to argue with that, but still, I can argue another guy like Matt Ryan, 4,944 yards, almost 5,000 yards, 38 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 70% completion ratio. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
You take Matt Ryan off of the Falcons. Are they the number 2 seed? Are they in the playoffs? Tampa Bay wins that division, and Atlanta's probably at home right now.
Yeah.
But if you take Tom Brady off, they're still in the playoffs. They're probably still in the Super Bowl.
I don't know if they're still in. They'll probably still be in the playoffs. They're not the number 1 seed. I mean, you look at Miami was right on their tail until the end.
They were 3-1. Project that at 12-4. They're the first seed in the AFC.
Yeah, but they lost to Buffalo.
I'm just telling you.
And remember too, Garoppolo got hurt. That thing is, it would have been Jacoby Brissett, and they would have went 9-7, 10-6, and everyone would have said, well, with Brady they would have went to the Super Bowl.
With Matt Castle, they went 11-5 with Matt Castle, a backup in college.
Well, that was the most loaded roster on offense. You got to remember they had Randy Moss still playing Randy Moss level and Wes Welker, and Tom Brady went 16-0 with that team and broke a bunch of records with that team. Yeah. I think that I would just to close this argument. I do like your Matt Ryan one. I think that's the safe kind of choice. Like if you feel like that Brady suspension holds him back, if you don't want to give it to Aaron because he had a slump, or the rookies, you can look at Matt Ryan and say that's a guy who's the the number 2 seed. He's played consistent all year. That's a guy that can feel safe giving it to.
Yeah, definitely. Well, moving on, let's look at let's go for part 2 of our segment that we debuted in our last show, the True or False segment. We're just going to throw out some topics, some statements, and we'll just give our takes on whether we think they're true or false with the quick reason behind them. So, a lot of the big buzz is about the Denver Broncos and them missing the playoffs this year. So I'll throw out the first statement here. John Elway is the reason the Denver Broncos missed the playoffs.
I'm going to say false. I know everyone wants to say, oh, it's because he didn't secure a quarterback. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. They didn't make the playoffs because their running game fell apart. And that wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
Anderson went out. The offensive line struggled a little bit. You can argue that's a little bit of his fault, but we've seen teams like Seattle win with subpar offensive lines. He still relied on his defense. Everyone wanted him to do what with the quarterback position? What was John Elway supposed to do with that position? You didn't want to bring Peyton Manning back. He tried to bring Rock Osweiler. He lucked out there.
Yeah.
He brought in Sanchez as a security. He drafted a guy that I think a lot of people did want in Paxton Lynch. So what magic quarterback? And I'm going to take a quick side note. Can we please stop, everybody? Well, he could have had Dak Prescott. Nobody knew Dak was going to be Dak. Jerry Jones was crying about wanting and complaining he should have paid more for Paxton Lynch. He wanted Connor Cook. He's great with Dak. Dak's great. Let's not pretend like he was this person that, we should have got him. No.
You know who did want Dak? Coach of the Year, Jason Garrett.
Well, because he coached him. Okay.
Just saying.
But he wasn't this
right.
guy that was
about the GM.
Yeah. Okay. So he took Paxton Lynch. Paxton Lynch isn't ready. John Elway, side note, isn't supposed to just look at 1 year. Oh, we're going to try to do it this year and then screw the rest of the years. He didn't screw himself over. So I don't think he's the reason. I think the running game, falling, injuries, and just people kind of figuring out Trevor Siemian is what caused them to miss the playoffs and not John Elway.
Yeah, if I got to give an answer to this, I'm going to go with true. And look, that's not a knock on John Elway at all. But I'll say he's the boss, and he gets the credit when they're successful, and you get the blame when you're not. And for me, the expectation was the defending Super Bowl champions are going to at least make the playoffs. And they fell short of that. So I believe he deserves some blame for that. Now, again, was there much he could do? Did he make any horrendous decision in the offseason? No. I mean, like you explained, I think he pretty much covered as many bases as he can possibly cover, drafting a quarterback for the future, Trevor Siemian's steady at least.
Yeah.
And, he was capable.
Yeah, that's true.
So, he brought in the guys, he signed the free agents, he made pretty good choices in the draft. We'll see what Paxton Lynch becomes. Hopefully next year we'll get a chance to see him compete at least for the job. And if he wins, I think you can say, he's a good. He's already a great GM.
Yeah,
I'm not taking it away from him, but hey, he deserves a little blame too.
All right, so let me give you this one: true or false? It is now time for Darrelle Revis to call it a career.
I waffle on this one a bit, but I'm going to say false. And the only reason is this. I think, he was coming off a wrist injury. And if we know anything about Darrelle Revis, if you read his scouting report, his bread and butter is press coverage. So if he doesn't have the ability to get his hands on you, then he's going to struggle. And I think you've seen that. Now, again, is he getting old? Yes. May he consider moving to safety? Possibly. But the fact that hopefully if he recovers from his injury and he really takes the time to put in the work this offseason, I think you got to give him another year before you say call it quits.
I think so too. I'm going to lean with you, and I'm going to say false. And I don't even think he has to really switch over to safety. I look at Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning went into last season, still thinking he had the ability to get the ball in there. It wasn't until he threw 18 interceptions against Kansas City and got benched did he realize in that time, I can't do what I used to do. My mind is still fast, but my body isn't as quick. It doesn't fire. When I see something, my arm doesn't get up there and get it. And I think that with an offseason, Darrelle Revis could sit there and say, okay, I'm not a press corner. Maybe I'm an off corner. Maybe I'm a corner that plays off and kind of gives the inside, or I'm a corner that needs safety help now. But I'm still a good corner. I'm still smart enough to play the game. I think he's still somebody that can help a defense. It's not just his God-given skills.
I'm going to beg to differ on that. You've seen what happened in Tampa Bay. They didn't play press all the time in Tampa. They played a lot of zone. They played a lot of off, and he had a horrible year. He went to New England. He played more press. He had a great year. So, asking him to do, he's not getting any faster.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, I'm looking at it like with Tampa too. They had no pass rush, and that was a mess. I mean, those are the Schiano years.
Yeah,
those are those are the worst years of worst years. But he didn't. He was coming off, I think, an ACL injury, if I'm correct. He came off a knee injury.
He had a knee injury.
And then, he wasn't coming because in his mind, like you said, that didn't change his mentality because he's still Darrell Revis. I'm still the best shut down. It's still Revis Island.
Yeah.
If he comes in and says, that's not me anymore. I'm a guy that needs to play off, read a wide receiver more, know that I have safety help, and become better at that, I think he could still play. Is he going to be what he was? No. Even with these techniques, with the changes? No. But I think he could still be a great, solid corner. The question remains for him, does he want to stop being a top 5 corner and now start being like a top 15, 20 corner?
Yeah, okay. Agreed.
I'm going to shoot this one to you because this one's interesting. True or false? There is still a quarterback controversy in Dallas.
Look, I'm going to go false. Because just for the simple fact, you've seen in that loss to the Eagles what kind of a team the Dallas Cowboys are. Tony Romo goes in there, looks really good, throws, that 3rd and 11 pass to Terrence Williams, that took me back to 2014. Like, wow, that's a nice ball. Blah, blah, blah. We can go on and on. But in the end, what was important was when they went onto the sidelines, Dak is one of the first guys to congratulate him. These two have each other's back. That team is a team. And that's why I think Jason Garrett deserves head coach, because they're all under Garrett and his message in that locker room. No matter what Jerry Jones goes on the radio and says, that team supports one another. And Romo doing what he did, taking the back seat to Dak, he did it for the team. And so I don't think there's a controversy.
No, I think between Jerry Jones and the media, which, they're like backdoor lovers.
Yeah.
They really are. He loves to feed them stuff, and they love to, feed off of what he says. But I think that in football is the ultimate ends justify the means.
Right.
So meaning that what's the end? Winning. So anything else that happens in between it doesn't matter as long as it results in a win.
Right.
So you can sit there and say, oh, well, Dak only threw for 180 yards and a touchdown, and he ran for 1. Romo would have thrown for 3 and 3 touchdowns. Okay, but they won the game. Do they get more points for winning? No. You just win the game. And I think if you're looking at Dak, if Dak is what people say he is and that he wants to be great, he's going to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
He's he does a good job, but man, you give this guy another year, to learn, another year after that, when they adjust to him to adjust to them as far as defenses in the NFL goes. I think that Romo's been great. I don't know if Romo's going to be around. There's an interesting theory of what if Dak doesn't play well in his playoff game and they lose to the Giants or they lose to Green Bay. Does Jerry want to bring Romo back? And I think that that's where you kind of have to say, look, this guy's our future moving forward. We have to put it in his hands that he's going to get better. So I'm going to say false with an asterisk that it all depends on how he plays in his playoff games. Because if he falters and Jerry starts getting that Romo itch, you're going to have... you think it was bad now. Imagine an offseason where there's not even games.
Yeah.
And it's just, Jerry said this. Jerry was at the racetrack and said that. Jerry, wore a Romo jersey. It's going to be horrible.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me throw one out here. Changing directions. How about this? Let's go to New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Payton is still the best option at head coach for the Saints.
That's false. And I know we're going to get a lot of angry messages from New Orleans fans who say, no, he is. He's the type of coach, and that's the type of area where it kind of like he won something. They were really not that great. They were a joke. Yeah. They were the Aints before he got there.
Right.
He comes with Breeze. They win a Super Bowl. They're in the playoffs. They're in contention. So there's always that want to to give him another shot. But are you improving as a franchise?
Yeah.
You're kind of just stuck. He doesn't know what to do on defense.
Doesn't.
He really doesn't. He hires these guys, and this is going to be the hot take of the year. he's on offense, so he scores points and controls the game. But when it comes to the other side of the ball, he is truly the Jeff Fisher of offenses. Offensive genius. He hires these guys on defense, and they all fall flat.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Let's take a look. I'm going to go false as well, and I'm going to support it with this evidence here. Let's take a look at his defensive coordinators. Gary Gibbs, Greg Williams, Steve Spagnuolo, Rob Ryan, and Dennis Allen. Which one of these have really worked out? Greg Williams, he won the Super Bowl. And that defense gave up a lot of yards and a lot of points, but it also did get turnovers in key situations.
That's what won him the Super Bowl, was the turnover.
Right, the turnovers. But outside of that 1 or 2 year window with Greg Williams, nothing has worked.
And he's had different types. And I mean, I think you couldn't get more polar opposites than Rob Ryan versus Dennis Allen as far as mentalities and attitudes, and yet it's still not working. Drew Brees is kind of carrying that team because he's been in that offense.
Right.
I think that it's time to start looking elsewhere, because if you keep riding this, they're going to fall apart one of these days. Brees is going to finally retire. Sean Payton's going to leave because he's not going to stay there, and then you're stuck being the Aints for a decade. So why not bring in a coordinator that can help with that defense? Bring in somebody that can come and build this defense up so you have something. You still have a few more years with Brees. I think people are just still stuck in their ways. He won us the Super Bowl, so no matter how many times we go 9-7 or 8-8, we have a top 5 defense and a top 40. It's a top 5 offense, a top 40 defense. We're going to let that continue. And unfortunately for the Saints, it feels like it's going to be a while.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking about another coach that was on the hot seat and finally burned, let me throw this one out to you. Jed York was right to fire head coach Chip Kelly along with GM Trent Baalke.
I'm going to say true, but not for the reasons that people like to say. You'll hear guys, and it's like, I can't stand Stephen A. Smith because he says just the dumbest things. And he says, well, Chip Kelly never changed. Yes, he did. Anybody who spent more than 5 minutes watching the San Francisco 49ers knows that he had changed his ways. He didn't deserve to be fired because he was given a roster that wasn't talented to begin with and that got injured as the time went on. Their offense looked better. Kaepernick looked better as the season went on. You saw him complete more. They were doing more things. Minus the game in Chicago. But, he won the game against the Rams. He came out good against Seattle. He had to go, and the reason why it's true is because they went 2-14. And at this point, you have to. If you're going to rebuild and you're going to fire Baalke and you're going to start from scratch, it's not fair to a GM to say you have to work with Chip Kelly. Right. I'm sorry, Chip. I think he did improve. It's so interesting that in Philly, he fought incorrectly and he fought a bad battle to win power that he shouldn't have. And in this situation, he stayed quiet. He just coached the team when he should have fought. And he should have said to Jed York, Trent Baalke's full of crap. He's lying. This roster isn't full of talent. It's injury plagued. You have Nick Ballore playing linebacker. You have guys off the street. Vinny Sinceri, who was a safety playing linebacker. But what got Chip in the ultimate end game of this is that he didn't want to fire his defensive coordinator. That's what reports say that came down to is they asked him midseason, we have the worst run defense in history. You need to let go of Jim O'Neill. He's loyal to his coach. He said, no, we're going to ride it out. And at the end of the day, Jed York just felt better to wipe it all out, which was unfair to Chip Kelly. He's honestly, as sad as this is, he's the sympathetic figure in this whole thing. But it had to be done. So it is true. Jed York should have fired him, should have got rid of Baalke and start new with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I agree. Just to throw my 2 cents in there. I agree with everything that you said. I'd go true on this statement as well. And I agree. I don't think this reflects as badly on Chip Kelly as it does Trent Baalke.
Oh, yeah.
To me, I think it completely reflects badly on him, dating back to the Jim Harbaugh situation.
Yeah.
And the other person that I think it reflects bad on is Jed York himself, because it shows how many mistakes he's made in just these last few years.
I think I'm hoping he realizes it, because he's never going to come out and say, I screwed up firing Jim Harbaugh. He's never going to say that. But saying, I can't look back in the past, mistakes were made, and all I can do is look forward, is a hope for me as a Niners fan that going forward, we're going to start with a better GM, that works with his coach.
Right.
Press conference that York had, he said it, I don't know, dozen times. I needed GM and coach to work together.
A ton of times.
And you felt like, okay, you're saying something without saying something.
Yeah.
That Bulky and Callie just did
Weren't
not work
working
together. No.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully that turns around. It'll be interesting to see who they get and
how they move forward.
Talk about that. But what everybody's talking about and what's on everybody's minds is the wild card weekend. And let's go over our predictions, previews, and predictions for these wild card games. So the first game, Saturday the 7th, and it's the first game. It's the AFC wild card, Raiders at Texans. Texans are a 3.5 point favorite in this game.
It's like home field.
That's
right?
home field. It's a half point.
A half point.
So who do you like?
Man, this is. You always know that first wild card game is always the game they're like the NFL rolls their eyes at.
Yeah.
And this is probably the first playoff game in playoff history that doesn't have playoff implications.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever wins this is getting destroyed the next round.
Yeah, I mean, who do you like? Like Matt McGloin or Connor Cook versus, Brock Osweiler, and maybe Tom Savage might get thrown in there at the end?
Tom Savage probably the best at all those three.
Right, and he's not even the starter.
No. It's like I go back and forth. I mean, this game, you give me Derek Carr. This game is not even close, in my opinion. But it's in Houston. They're going to try to run the ball. Oakland's going to try to run the ball. It's who's going to make least amount of mistakes. Playoff games kind of end in ties, right? Like 0-0.
I'm not sure.
I'm going to go with Oakland.
Wow.
I think I'm going to go with Oakland because I feel like their running game and their running scheme will benefit. And I think
Houston has a defense.
I know they do, but they also have Brock Osweiler playing quarterback. And I know he
might get pulled in the second quarter, you never know.
I mean, unless Bill O'Brien's going to play, like he might.
He might. And he'd probably be the best option at this point. But, I feel like the Texans just caught a lucky break.
Yeah. His foot, yeah.
And, they won the weakest division in football. And they get to host a playoff game. The Houston Texans get to host a playoff game. How lucky is that?
Yep.
And it's against this team that had the win completely taken out of its sails when Derek Carr went down. And I think that because of that, the morale of the Oakland Raiders is going to be down. And we're going to see how good of a coach Jack Del Rio is, because if he can pull this one off, he might change my mind again. But I don't see that happening. Like I said, the Derek Carr injury, you saw the difference in that team. It was like, we don't have a shot anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Carr's down. And I just think that's going to continue. And, I think the defense for the Texans is considerably better than the defense in Oakland. You have the names. You can take Khalil Mack and Jadeveon Clowney. And they're taken in the same draft. Mm-hmm. You'll get a chance to see them prove their mettle. But in the end, I'm going to go with the Houston Texans. And I got to score 17-13.
Oh, man, I think you're giving them a whole lot more points than I think I'm almost about to go 9-6 kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Oakland, because for this thing, the Texans defense, and maybe I'm wrong, they don't have a secondary that's very aggressive as far as picking up. They get sacks and they get stops.
Right. A lot of pressure.
I think the Oakland defense will be able to turn the ball over a couple times. I think that Jack Del Rio, like you said, he's going to prove his mettle, because what he wants to be able to do is at least get them. I mean, they were taken off guard. They played a division rival. They weren't ready. They weren't into it. They got beat by Denver. I think it's going to be different. I think he's had time to talk to this team, to rally this team, to say, hey, no one's giving us a shot. He's going to put it on his running backs. You got Washington. You got Latavius Murray. You have a great left side. You have Amari Cooper, who can maybe get you something here and there. And I think Oakland walks away winning this one. Let's go 13-10.
Well, we have the Raiders getting 13 points.
Yeah.
We can agree on that.
Yes.
The second game on Saturday is, I guess it's the better game, and it's the Lions at the Seahawks. And Seattle is an 8-point favorite. Big time.
Yeah.
So who do you like in this one?
I want to make a case for the Lions, but I'm not an idiot, so I won't. And I think it'll be close early, because I think Seattle will start off slow.
Yeah.
But I think as the game goes on, I think Russell Wilson will be Russell Wilson. They're going to hit big plays. Losing Tyler Lockett hurts. I mean, that's their big play threat. But I think Jimmy Graham will help mask that a little bit. I think Rawls is playing, if I'm not mistaken.
He hasn't been doing much.
I know.
Just telling you, what has he been getting? Like 40 yards, 48, 50 yards here. I mean, he's not Marshawn Lynch.
And I know. And I think they were foolish if they thought he was and they didn't have a backup plan. And I do think Detroit will be able to move the ball. I think you'll see them move the ball on that Seattle defense. But Bennett and that defensive front, I think will put pressure on him. He'll make mistakes. They'll throw interceptions.
Do you think, I know you said Detroit can move the ball, but do you think Detroit's going to put up points? I mean, are they going to score?
That's where it's going to be. I think there's parts of it where it can become a shootout maybe for a little bit. But I think once Seattle settles, I think they're going to – what'll happen to Detroit is they'll go and score touchdown, and then they'll give up fumble, pick.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to follow that rhythm. I trust that Russell Wilson will make enough plays to beat Matthew Stafford. If this game was in Detroit, it would be very interesting.
Yeah, I would agree. I would almost want to take Detroit if this game was in Detroit.
But I think it's in Seattle. They're used to it. There's still what's left of the Legion of Boom. There's still what's left of this mighty Seattle team. I don't think it's the same as it was prior, but there's still enough to beat Detroit. Let's go 28. We'll go 28-20.
28-20. Yeah. It's pretty close to what I have. When I look at this game, I look at the Seattle offense first thing, and I see that the last 3 games they scored 6 points, 21, and 24. So not too bad. Thinking, hey, their strength is the defense, right? So you can get by scoring 21 and 24 points, maybe not 6, but 21 and 24. And then you look at the defense, though. This defense, and the last 3 games they've given up 38. 34. So the 38 was to Green Bay. Mm-hmm. The 34 was to Arizona. And they gave up 23 to the San Francisco 49ers.
That's kind of all you need to know.
That's all you need to know. That defense is not the defense that we think it is going into these playoffs. So you compare that on the other side of the ball with the Lions. And the Lions are, to me, 2 different teams. And what I mean by that is this. They're pre and post the Matthew Stafford hand injury.
That really changed the game on them. I mean, he's not been the same since.
Definitely. So when I see that, I think this is the question I ask, and I'll ask you. Has the Seattle defense fallen far down enough, missing Earl Thomas and things like that? Have they fallen far enough for Matthew Stafford to still take advantage with his hand?
No, because of the front 4. I think Michael Bennett will still wreak havoc along that line. You still have Cliff Averill. You still have Bobby Wagner. That defensive front is still good enough to put pressure. They're going to move the ball because the secondary isn't what it used to be. Not even counting Earl Thomas's injury. Thomas going out, that's like losing a quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because you look at that defense. I mean, you had your corner and Sherman. You had your hard hitter, with Cam Chancellor. But he was the guy who knew where everything was, lined everybody up. Cam, you go hit this guy. Richard, you back off this. I'll take this sideline to sideline.
Right.
Especially in that cover 3, because you attack the seams, you have to have someone to go from sideline to sideline. And they don't have that anymore. So Detroit will be able to take advantage of that. I think Matthew Stafford will be able to move the ball, but you're asking a lot to do it consistently and not make mistakes. You have to play really, really good and not make a lot of mistakes.
So you think that if Matt Stafford plays mistake-free football, they have a chance in this game?
I think if he does, I think it'll be one of those games where they're within about 3 points, 4 points, which always felt you'll feel like Seattle still kind of has them at arm's length.
I think so too.
Yeah.
My prediction, I have Seahawks 23, Lions 17. So and the bottom line is this: Seattle's at home. If they weren't at home, I don't think I'd be picking them.
Yeah, they've fallen from what they used to be.
So then the Sunday game, the first Sunday game, we have the Miami Dolphins at Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's an interesting game because that's a game where they've played. They played
in week 6.
Yes. And, everyone said, oh, no, but Pittsburgh is going to go in there and beat them and handle their business. And, Miami, that was one of Miami's signature wins, was being able to run the ball, pick off Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
You know, and
he was hurt that game.
Yeah, he was.
He was hurt that game.
Yeah, he was. I think the line is Steelers -10. So that's a lot. Yeah, they really believe that this isn't going to be similar to that game. You have Adam Gase. I think this is his rookie year.
Yeah.
You know, having to go into Pittsburgh to play Mike Tomlin in a playoff game. They were able to run the ball. I think Mike Tomlin's one of my favorite coaches. I don't care what Terry Bradshaw calls him. It's ridiculous. You know, you give him an extra week and a loss, and he's going to prepare. And I think that they run away with this game towards the end, if you ask me. I think it's close, but I think Pittsburgh's playmakers are not going to make the same mistakes. I think they're going to make a key effort to stop Jay Ajayi. They're going to make Ryan Tannehill beat them. You know, they're not going to lose the way they lost last time. And it was in Miami. This is going up to Pittsburgh. You're playing Pittsburgh in the playoffs. You know, that's not an easy task.
Now, Pittsburgh's been hot. What, they've won 7 straight to close out the season?
Yes.
But the thing is, when you look at who they played in the last 7 games, they played the Browns twice.
Yeah, those are buys.
The best team they played was Baltimore, probably, right? They played a lot of teams that just, to me, a lot of it was garbage. And so, you know, I think the Dolphins have a shot. Again, I think, you know what? I'm not going to believe it till I see it. And that running game is potent for the Miami Dolphins. And bottom line is, what have you heard throughout the season about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense?
They're good front seven, but you can burn them over the top.
And so, I to me, I think that's going to open up opportunities later on in the game. But I do agree. I think they have to establish that they can pass. Yeah. And that way you take that extra man out of the box, and then you start running again, just like you did in Week 6.
Yeah, because Pittsburgh, I mean, you can throw on Pittsburgh's corners. Yeah. I don't think, I think they're young. Artie Burns is rookie. Yeah. Burns. So I think you can throw, but you have to force them to defend the run first, and I just look at it like, who do I think is going to win? When I look at this matchup, a part of me kind of likes Miami. I really do. I really think they can. They have a pretty underrated, offensive line. They took, what was his name in the draft last year? The pothead.
Which one?
Tunsil.
Oh, Tunsil. Yeah, Tunsil.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
They put him at guard.
With this mask. Oh, yeah, they did.
And they're going to move him out to tackle, I think, after this year. But they have a great offensive line. I think J.J. is a power back. He's mobile. He's quick. He's fast. He's got everything you're looking for. Tannehill can make the plays when he wants to. But at the end of the day, you're playing Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh, after that loss to Dallas, said, we're going to run the ball again. We're going to put it in Le'Veon Bell's hands. And when we need to, we have the ability to throw, not just we're going to throw. We have the ability to do it. We'll do it when we can. But we're going to establish Le'Veon Bell. I think he opens up the defense of Miami. And I think Pittsburgh walks away with the win. Let's go. And I think this is going to be kind of a blowout. I'm going to go.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to go like 35-21, 35-20. I think
that's funny because I had Pittsburgh winning this game, but a little bit closer. But I had them scoring about the same amount of points. I think Pittsburgh's going to win this game 34-28.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
So the number one game of the week, I should say, Wildcard weekend. I think the one that everybody's looking forward to, far and away, the best game. This might be the best game of the playoffs, if you ask me. I mean, this has the potential to be that.
That's the reason why it's the last one at the very end.
It has to be, right? They knew what they were doing when they made the schedule.
Yep.
And that's this. This is the New York Giants at the Green Bay Packers. And to me, there's just one gigantic question that I need to pose to you, and that's this. I think this game ultimately comes down to, do you want to take the Packers offense against that Giants defense?
They're going to get after Aaron Rodgers. I look at that defense is going to get after him. I don't care what you say about Ty Montgomery. They still can't run the ball to me with any type of faith. I don't have any faith in their running game.
Consistently.
Really. Yeah. It's just not going to do it. You have to hammer, I think, the Giants. You can't just sit there and they're not the Giants of old. Those old pass rushing, those are amazing, but they have some abilities. The Olivier Vernon, they can get after the quarterback, and you want to make Aaron Rodgers kind of dance in the pocket. You don't want him getting outside the side, but if you make him hold, he'll throw a pick, he'll take a sack.
Yeah.
And
Janoris Jenkins is a gambler out there on the outside, so.
And you have, like you said, Landon Collins, who's he's a hard hitter. Guy. I mean, you're afraid to go across the middle against him. You send him on a blitz. the Giants have done it before. They've gone up into Green Bay and beat Green Bay. Oh, that's right. Twice. They've gone into Green Bay twice and beat Green Bay. Oh, man, it's Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers is playing so good, but he was playing good when they went in there last time. And this isn't the same Giants team, but man, Eli Manning and Odell Beckham Jr. It's such a great game. Let me hear your thoughts on it because I need some some thoughts.
All right. Well, the thing I look at too is there's a lot of injuries for Green Bay. I mean, up and down, that injury report is long. I don't even have time to list who's hurt. But going back to the Giants' defense against the Packers' offense, I agree. I'll take the Giants' defense, but I think the biggest difference will be this, and that's on the other side of the ball. Can Eli protect the ball? If Eli is regular season Eli and is throwing 2 or 3 picks in this game, they don't have a chance because you're giving Aaron Rodgers those extra possessions, and he's gonna beat them if he gets those extra possessions.
He feeds off that.
Yeah, he's gonna get enough looks to figure out that defense. But if you can keep the possessions and the time of possession to a minimum, which the Giants are capable of doing in the short passing game, the only thing that scares me is they don't have that capability in the running game to keep the ball away from Aaron Rodgers. But in the short passing game, if they can just get the first downs and methodically move that ball and hope for 1 or 2 big catches from Odell Beckham Jr., I think they can do it. Like I said, JPP's out.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. But they still have Vernon on the other side. And, he plays the run well.
They have Snacks Harris.
Rusher. Yeah. So,
But then you look at the one question I have is that what keeps me prevents me, I should say, from picking the Giants outright is that not just the running game, but that offensive line and that left tackle. Having to go up against, Nick Perry, Clay Matthews. I mean, they're not big names, and Nick Perry isn't, but you have these defensive ends that are plays. They're going to come right off the edge, and it's going to be cold, and that guy, Eric Flowers, he came out of Miami. Is he going to be able to withstand the pressure of playing a playoff game against Green Bay? Because those fans are rabid. I have had family that lived out in Green Bay. I have in-laws that lived in Green Bay. They tell me all the time, man, Green Bay is just a different level. But I've seen Eli do it. I'm going to get hate from Packer fans, but I think I'm going to call Eli going in there and doing it again. And I think the Giants are going to beat the Green Bay Packers 30-27 on an Eli last drive.
30-27. On an Eli, so Eli's the reason they're going to win. Yeah, You're saying it. You're calling it. Okay, all right. Not the defense.
No, what I think is that Eli is going to play Eli ball, which is he'll throw a pick or 2.
Yeah, what does that mean?
A pick
Good
or
Eli,
2.
bad Eli? Yeah, right.
Eli, which is a pick, but like touchdowns too.
Yeah,
all of the above. Interceptions that make no sense. Okay. I mean, here you go, Clay Matthews. You want one? But I think it'll be 27-20. Aaron Rodgers goes down the field, gets the tying touchdown, and I think it'll be the tragedy of Aaron Rodgers that for the third straight time in the playoffs where he leads his team to tie it, and the other team comes down the field, kicks a game-winning field goal, and knocks him out of the playoffs in Green Bay again.
Wow. It's funny because I hate to do this, but I agree with you, and I just feel like the Giants have just a slight advantage. Do I think this is going to be the closest game of this weekend's playoffs? Yes. It's the most interesting. Can I see it going the other way? Yes. But if I had to give the edge, I'm going to give the edge to Eli Manning because somehow, some way, I know if the game is close in the playoffs, he doesn't know any better than to lose when he's supposed to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody's on the Aaron Rodgers bandwagon right now. And I think, Eli's going to show, and I think the Giants win 26-24.
Close, yeah.
Close game. It's got to be. And just to be honest, basically whoever wins this game, that's who the Cowboys are going to play. And these two teams are the teams, in my opinion, that are the most difficult. So I'm not looking forward to playing either of these teams, to be honest. I still favor us, but I'm not looking forward to it. But we'll see. Maybe Detroit pulls an upset and makes it real easy for me. But I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, there'll be plenty of things to talk about after the end of Wildcard weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's going to wrap up everything as far as the regular season is concerned for us in this podcast. We'll touch on the playoffs, as they go. There's a few things that we wanted to do. We want to do a special for the draft.
Yeah.
Going over players. So there's a lot of things to look forward to, even though we'll be taking some time off. And we won't be coming every week because we're not going to have games to talk about.
Yeah.
But there's going to be plenty of things to do. We'll do some specials. We'll do some new things. And
got some surprises for the fans out there.
Hopefully this thing catches on. And, if you're listening, thanks for listening.
I appreciate it.
Make sure to like, subscribe. The more likes you leave, the more, exposure that the channel gets. So
yeah, you want to call us idiots for picking the
go
Giants over Green Bay?
Go for it. Your feedback is welcome. If you guys want to leave a comment, maybe we'll mention you in a future segment or something. We can go back and forth with you guys. But until then, this is the Say What You Like podcast, and I hope you enjoyed it.